A compulsive liar is selected to participate in testing a newly designed companion robot, with the goal of making it appear more human. This confronts his usual tricks of deceit and challenges his perspective on love. Satinyan suggests his former classmate, Erikal, as the perfect subject for their trial. He is aware that, although Erikal is a habitual liar, he recently sold his house and sent all the money to his mother in America, leaving him with a massive debt. After hearing this, Satinyan's superior, Marishlayan, agrees to recruit him for the experiment. The following day, Erikal's date reminds him of his promise to take her to the amusement park after their time together. He attempts to talk his way out of it, but the woman threatens him. At that moment, Erikal's landlady, Margarita, shows up. Erikal escorts her to the living room, trying to help his date sneak out, but Margarita hears the door closing. She demands the overdue rent, and Erikal assures her he will pay within a week. Knowing he's lying, Margarita advises him to find a respectable woman and get his act together. Erikal insists that he already has someone. Later, he goes to a dance competition with Milena. However, he spots the loan shark, Razmik, and his henchman, Drat, observing them, which makes him uneasy. Razmik corners him in the restroom, demanding payment. Erikal then claims that Milena's father owns a liquor company, and that he plans to marry her and use the wedding budget to settle the debt. Razmik gives him 4 days. As a backup, Erikal attempts to sell his bar, but since it's not well known, he invites some friends to pose as customers and offers them free drinks. The drinks, however, are merely apple juice to cut costs. Soon, a potential buyer arrives, and Erikal lies, saying the bar is always full. Unfortunately, one of his friends complains about the juice, which the buyer overhears, exposing Erikal's bluff. The next day, Satinyan finally brings Erikal to meet Marishlayan, who explains that they've built a female robot equipped with a neural network that imitates a living being. Erikal assumes they want the robot to serve customers at his bar, but Satinyan clarifies the real purpose. The robot is meant to replace humans in different roles. To do this, they need the robot to experience human emotions, so they've developed synthetic hormones. To test its effectiveness, the robot must live with Erikal for a month. They then escort him to the robotics facility, where he's introduced to the robotic system with artificial intelligence, Rosalie. Erikal argues that she doesn't appear lifelike, but Marishlayan reassures him that this version isn't final. In return for participating in the test, Erikal will receive 20 million drams. Still, Erikal boasts that he's about to marry into a wealthy liquor family and could easily get that amount. With that, he walks away. Satinyan remains confident that Erikal will return soon. Sure enough, Erikal meets Milena's father, Shajen, who admits he initially planned to have him beaten up. However, Milena claims she loved him, so Shajen decides to give him a chance. Even so, Shajen refuses to allow Erikal any control over the wedding or its budget, assigning him only to cover the cost of Milena's wedding dress. Left with no alternative, Erikal calls Satinyan and agrees to the arrangement, though he provides a list of specifications for how he wants the robot to look. They meet again to finalize the contract, although Erikal expresses concern that the robot might malfunction. Satinyan reassures him that the robot is top tier, already worth millions in materials and labor. Hearing that, Erikal wonders if they could just sell the robot, which irritates Satinyan. Just then, a stunning woman enters, and Erikal assumes she's Rosalie. He immediately complains that she doesn't match his description, even touching her to make his point. The woman suddenly kicks him, and Satinyan informs Erikal that she is not the robot. After she departs, Rosalie finally arrives, and Erikal eagerly invites the robot to dance. That evening, Erikal brings her to his apartment. Rosalie tidies up and even prepares food, much to Erikal's pleasure. Following the meal, he attempts to flirt with her, but Rosalie fails to grasp his hints. Erikal then calls Satinyan to express his dissatisfaction. Satinyan explains that, just like with a real woman, Erikal needs to earn Rosalie's affection before her intimacy feature activates. Later, Milena calls Erikal, asking him to join her the next day to pick out a wedding dress. The next morning, Erikal withdraws some money before heading to the bridal boutique. Upon arrival, however, Razmik ambushes him. His 4-day deadline has passed. Ericl explains he hasn't received the wedding budget yet, but gives him part of the withdrawn cash as a down payment. Razmik agrees to this just as Milena spots them. Ericl lies, saying Razmik is his tailor. Razmik plays along, charming Milena and even offering to assist in choosing her dress. Milena then brings them both to the boutique. Meanwhile, Margarita takes the elevator with Ando, who flirts with her. When they reach Ericl's floor, they spot Rosalie exiting his apartment. At the salon, Razmik remarks that a woman brings light into a man's life, so they must select a dress that reflects that radiance. His flattering words make Milena blush. Just then, Ericl receives a call from Margarita, who accuses him of selling his apartment to Rosalie. She threatens to involve the police, prompting Ericl to urgently ask Razmik to give his money back, claiming he needs it for a wedding-related purchase. Not wanting to raise Milena's suspicions, Razmik reluctantly returns the cash. Ericl then rushes home to pay Margarita and tells her that Rosalie is his girlfriend. Margarita is doubtful, believing Rosalie is out of his league. Shortly after, Satinyan contacts Ericl, instructing him to take Rosalie out in public so they can observe how she interacts with others. Ericl also receives a voicemail from Milena, who praises Razmik's sense of style. With his help, she has chosen her dress, which costs 9.5 million drams. The price is higher than Ericl anticipated, but he has no choice but to pay for it. Rosalie soon arrives, assisted by Ando, who helps her carry groceries. She cheerfully greets Ericl, and Ando laments how someone like him ended up with such a stunning woman. After he leaves, Ericl confronts Rosalie about going outside, but she explains that she used the lab's credit card to buy groceries. Seeing a new opportunity, Ericl takes the credit card and uses it to buy her a bouquet on their way to his bar. When Rosalie smells the flowers, the scientists detect the first synthetic hormone being produced in her system. At the bar, Ericl and Rosalie run into his old friend, Ardak, who is involved in cryptocurrency. Ericl expresses interest in the field, but when he brings it up, Rosalie comments that Ardak's company has gone bankrupt. Ardak is shocked by her knowledge and even more surprised when she displays deep understanding of the industry. Trying to change the subject, Ardak turns to his date, who says she teaches Japanese poetry. To everyone's astonishment, Rosalie recites a Japanese poem, prompting Ericl to lie that she studied in Tokyo for 2 years. Growing suspicious, Ardak asks to speak with Ericl privately. He questions how Ericl ended up with someone as intelligent as Rosalie. Ericl insists she's in love with him, but Ardak points out that Ericl is a known liar drowning in debt, making it unlikely for someone to fall for him. Apologizing for his bluntness, Ardak refuses to play along and reminds Ericl that he's also engaged to Milena. With that, Ardak leaves with his date. Unbeknownst to him, his words deeply wound Ericl. Still, Ericl forces a smile when Rosalie waves at him from across the room. Suddenly, Razmik appears and, having witnessed their interaction, accuses Ericl of cheating on Milena. Ericl lies that Rosalie is a performer at his bar, and as if on cue, she begins singing on stage. This convinces Razmik, who then departs. Ericl continues watching Rosalie, clearly becoming captivated by her. Their evening continues at the amusement park, and once home, Rosalie prepares a Japanese dinner for Ericl. Curious, he asks why she sang at the bar. She replies that she was reading his and Razmik's lips, and sang to help him. However, she questions why humans lie. Ericl explains that people lie to get what they want. Rosalie argues that everything in their world can be solved mathematically, where lies don't belong. Ericl responds that society allows liars to succeed, prompting Rosalie to conclude that humans might deceive her too. Ericl advises her to learn how to recognize and avoid deception. Rosalie then asks him to teach her. That night, Ericl teaches Rosalie manipulation through card games. She quickly picks it up and beats him in every round. She soon calculates her win rate at 98%. This gives Ericl another idea. The scientists later discover that Rosalie has looked up the locations of nearby casinos. Concerned this might attract attention, They activate her intimacy features to distract Erical. This causes Rosalie to seduce Erical, and he eagerly joins her in the bedroom. However, the activity continues through the night, and by morning, Erical is too exhausted to function. He contacts Titinian to report Rosalie's insatiable appetite. Titinian recommends reducing her desire levels. Just then, Rosalie begins searching for Erical, but before she can pull him back into bed, her system receives an update that ends her intimacy mode. She then remembers their plan to visit the casino, and the couple heads there. Using precise calculations, Rosalie easily wins at the games, earning Erical a large sum of money. On their way home, Erical comments on how other men at the casino were envious of him because of Rosalie. He admits he's never felt so proud, and in his excitement, asks to kiss her. Rosalie agrees and they share a kiss. However, they are soon confronted by Shajen, who accuses Erical of cheating on his daughter. Erical lies that Rosalie is his sister who just arrived from America. To support the lie, Rosalie speaks in English, charming Shajen, who backs off. Once home, Rosalie asks why Erical claimed she was his sister. Erical confesses that he's engaged to Shagen's daughter. Hearing this, Rosalie suddenly feels the urge to smash a statue over his head. Meanwhile, the scientists observe that Rosalie's system is flooded with synthetic hormones, indicating strong feelings of jealousy and anger. Concerned about her next actions, Marischlein orders his team to disable the hormones. However, the team argues that her jealousy proves she is developing a strong attachment to Erical. With that, they allow Rosalie to hurl the statue at him, which he narrowly avoids. The act satisfies the robot's fury, so she no longer feels inclined to harm him. Instead, she becomes interested in repeating their previous night's encounter. Although the scientists had disabled Rosalie's intimacy function, she managed to reactivate it on her own. This gives them hope that Rosalie is beginning to experience desires like a real human. Following this, Erical prepares to be intimate with Rosalie once more, only to discover Razmik and Drat waiting in his home. They had found out about Erical's casino winnings, so Razmik seizes the entire sum as payment for his debt and for keeping Erical's secret relationship from Shajen and Milena. He also reprimands Erical for betraying Milena and demands that he confess to her. The next morning, Shajen finds his daughter happily chatting with Razmik. Later, he calls and asks Erical to meet with him. During their conversation, Shajen hints that he's interested in Rosalie. Erical rejects the idea, and Shajen sympathizes, noting how the situation could make their family relationships complicated. Nonetheless, he insists they can discuss it further over dinner and invites them to his restaurant that evening. Worried that his secret will be exposed, Erical rushes home and tells Rosalie that Shajen has fallen for her, so they must make it seem like she returned to America. However, Rosalie believes they should confront the issue directly and asks him to trust her. That evening, they join Shajen for dinner, though Erical spots Milena and Razmik entering the restaurant as well. Before Shajen notices them, Erical excuses himself and goes to check on the two. While he's gone, Shajen asks Rosalie what she thinks of him. The woman responds that he appears loyal to those he loves, even after they've passed away. For instance, he named a wine after his late wife, implying he hasn't completely moved on from her death. However, he's now seeking someone to fill the void in his heart. Rosalie says this is a mistake, as she believes he has already found his soulmate, and that's the only real way to fall in love. Meanwhile, Erical confronts Milena and Razmik. Razmik cryptically reminds him that he was supposed to admit his infidelity. Otherwise, he'll reveal Erical's relationship with Rosalie to Shajen. This forces Erical to retreat, but he soon finds Shajen already leaving. Erical asks Rosalie what happened, and the robot explains that she realized people often lie because they fear the truth. So, she told Shajen her honest view on his perception of love. As a result, Milena later finds Shajen reflecting on memories of his wife. She uses the moment to confess that she no longer wishes to marry Erical. Instead, she wants to be with Razmik. Shajen doesn't object, as he recognizes Razmik as her kindred spirit. Meanwhile, Erical returns home to find Rosalie asleep, She has developed synthetic melatonin to simulate human sleep. This shows she is truly evolving to resemble a human, which prompts Marischlein to consider recalling her earlier than expected. The next day, Erikel experiences one of the best days of his life. He manages to pay his rent and even gives money to a homeless man. He enjoys his time at the bar and later has a peaceful breakup with Milena. Later, Shajen visits the bar to confront Erikel, but after receiving a call from Milena confirming they've resolved things, he chooses to relax and have a drink instead. While there, he notices Erikel's singer and feels instantly captivated by her. Soon after, Erikel returns home, only to discover that Rosalie and her belongings are gone. He contacts Titinian, who informs him that their experiments are complete, so they've taken her back. This devastates Erikel, and he pleads with them to let him see her one final time. The scientists agree, on the condition that they choose the meeting location and he forgets about her afterward. Eventually, Erikel and Rosalie reunite. He immediately begs the robot to run away with him, but Rosalie, aware she's not truly human, says they cannot marry or have children. Instead, she thanks him for helping her feel more human. To their astonishment, Rosalie begins to cry. Suddenly, Rosalie freezes. Titinian has deactivated her. A group of men arrive to take her, but Erikel senses something is wrong. He questions whether Marischlein knows about this, and Titinian admits that he'll inform his boss after returning from vacation, revealing he has sold Rosalie without the company's consent. Unwilling to let Rosalie fall into the wrong hands, Erikel attempts to defend her but is outnumbered. Just then, Razmik and Drat arrive and fight off Titinian's goons. Razmik had tracked Erikel down to repay him for Milena's ruined dress, refusing to owe him anything. He then asks whether Erikel had been intimate with Milena, and Erikel assures him he hadn't, fearing Shajen too much before the wedding. Satisfied, Razmik chooses to protect him. As the fight continues, Erikel tries to reach Rosalie but is quickly overpowered. Witnessing this, the robot reactivates herself. She rescues Erikel and takes down several attackers but halts when Titinian points a gun at Erikel. Rosalie recalls her joyful moments with him and, to protect him, surrenders. Still, Erikel refuses to let her go and rushes toward her. Just as the men open fire, Rosalie leaps in front of him, shielding him from the bullets and ultimately destroying herself in the process. At that moment, the police burst in and arrest Titinian and his henchmen. Over the following months, Margarita starts a relationship with Ando, while Shajen supports the bar singer in achieving her dream of becoming a recording artist. Razmik and Milena also tie the knot and launch a new fashion label together. Meanwhile, Marischlein and his team move forward with producing the next generation of Rosalie androids. 3 years pass, and Marischlein reaches out to Erikel to inquire about Rosalie's current development, which has surpassed all their initial projections for the robot models. As it turns out, they were able to repair Rosalie, and she is now on the verge of giving birth. Erikel insists that their child is the product of love, not a laboratory experiment. Marischlein counters that the baby's genetic makeup is still based on the android's synthetic DNA, but Erikel dismisses this as irrelevant. He affirms that he is the father of the child and ends the call. Rosalie praises him for standing up to the scientists. With that, they head to the hospital to welcome the birth of the first human-android hybrid.